I watched The Pool today, so that means that you now have to hear about it. A lot can be said about the condition that the Western entertainment industry finds itself in today. I don't think it's particularly controversial to point out that in the modern era, there has been a notable and absolutely noticeable decline in the quality of Hollywood's output. A combination of factors are what has led to this undeniable state of affairs, but I won't dwell on those too much here, as that isn't really the point of this video or of this channel. But regardless of the general poor state of the modern Western film, there is one thing that we can usually count on, and that is the fact that each time Western filmmakers drop the ball, their Asian counterparts will be there to pick it up again. Now, The Pool is a 2018 survival nature runs amok movie made in Thailand, directed by this guy here, whose name I would probably mispronounce if I tried to do so. It stars this guy and this woman as Dae and Koi, names I can pronounce, respectively. The film is a co-production between 7 Moment, Love Is Entertainment and Pizza Hut? Okay. The film begins with a very bloodied and beaten Dae, who has seen better days, who is lying in what looks to be an emptied out, very deep swimming pool. The next thing we see is the villain of the piece, a crocodile, which bites down on his leg before Dae grabs hold of an empty metal bucket and starts beating it over the head. We then go back in time to where we see a woman doing an underwater photo shoot, which Dae is working on as a crew member. His girlfriend, Koi, and his pet dog, Lucky, an ironic name if there ever was one based on what's to come, wait for him to finish work. Being something of a drifter, Dae decides to spend the night by the pool once everybody has left, and plans to clear up the props used in the photo shoot the next morning. His boss is down in the maintenance room, where we see a discarded newspaper informing us of a flood having taken place, and as such, a crocodile has escaped from a nearby farm, which the authorities are currently looking for. He has pulled the lever which drains the water. He informs Dae of this, who is now relaxing on an inflatable raft in the pool, while Lucky is tied up nearby. He also orders Dae a pizza. I bet you can't guess who's going to be delivering it, before he heads off for a 3-month trip abroad, leaving Dae by himself. Dae then falls asleep on the raft as the water slowly drains away. He then, several hours later, wakes up to find that the water in this 6-meter deep pool is now half the depth that it was when he was last awake. This would be a deeply distressing situation to be in on its own, but from here, things only get much worse. You could say that for Dae, this really isn't his day, He tries and tries to escape from the now half-empty pool, but try as he might, escape for him is just out of reach. But it would seem his luck is about to change. He hears his phone, which he had left up by the side of the pool, vibrating as he is receiving a phone call from Koi. As it vibrates, it moves along the ground towards the pool's edge. If it continues to ring, it'll fall over the edge. He can catch it and then phone for help. But this is where things once again start to go awry, as Lucky, who is still tied up by the pool, gets into a panic and falls over the side. He is able to cling onto the side, however. It is now that we get a good look at the kind of guy that Dae really is, and contrary to the irresponsible drifter that he seems to think of himself as, he doesn't hesitate for one moment to come to his dog's aid. Dae here is very much caught between a rock and a hard place, or between a phone and a dog. He needs the phone to call for help, but he won't let Lucky stay there, tied up and dangling over the edge. He swims over and uses the inflatable raft to push him back up to safety. But by doing this, the phone ends up vibrating to the point where it falls over the pool's side while he is not there to catch it. But then, just when it seems like disaster has struck once again, Dae sees that the phone is plugged in and charging. It dangles precariously over the edge, luckily not having plunged into the water below. It is still, however, out of reach. He attempts to retrieve it as it swings to and fro, but as he does finally manage to unplug it from the charger, it ends up in the water, and as such, it has been rendered unusable. Now, just as a quick aside, I find it interesting how over the past, say, 15 years or so, a new element has been introduced into movies out of necessity, and that is having to find convincing ways of disposing of characters' phones. Obviously, everyone and their grandma carries a phone with them in the modern day, and so realistically, this should mean that every time a character in a film or show finds themselves in a jam, they should be able to just pull out their phone and call for help straight away. This wasn't something that writers had to to account for in the pre-mobile phone age, but now, unless your film is set in the past, this is an aspect of life that writers must make allowances for. And they do have to make it convincing too. In my opinion, the old, "oh no, I don't have a signal," doesn't really cut the mustard anymore. You could have gotten away with that back in the early 2000s, but these days, a believable reason for characters not having access to their smartphones is paramount. And in my view, having them leave it at home or in the car is just as unforgivably lazy as saying, "oh, no bars," because nobody does that. We are all, every one of us, phone addicts, and nobody just leaves their phone at home like they did back in 2006. Anyway, the point of all that was to say that the way Day lost access to his phone is among the more creative that I've seen in a modern movie. The lead up to it and the combination of small events beforehand were very nicely done. Now back to the film itself. During Day's escape attempt, we get our first bit of chronological gore, not counting the initial crocodile bite at the start of the film, where he almost ends up losing a fingernail while holding on for dear life. Now, if you're anything like me, fingernail stuff really gives you a serious feeling of unease when you see it. It's fingernail stuff and eye stuff for me. I just can't be doing with it. He swims to the bottom of the pool to block the drain with his dressing gown, which is successful for a while, but while he's under the water, his clothing becomes entangled in the grate, and he gets into yet more trouble. And of course, this is when the pizza his boss ordered for him, and yes, it was ordered from Pizza Hut, arrives, when he's stuck and can't shout to him for help. It's always the same with deliveries, isn't it? They always come when you're busy with something else. Typical. The delivery guy leaves the pizza by the poolside, which will be handy later on for sustenance for Day and Coy, and just as Day is able to free himself and scream for assistance, the dude starts up his moped at the exact moment and is unable to hear him. It's just one thing after another for this poor guy. Realizing that it's all hopeless and he won't be able to get out of this situation on his own, he goes back to the inflatable raft and ends up falling asleep again from exhaustion. It's then that things get worse still as his girlfriend Coy arrives the next morning as a surprise. She doesn't realize that the water is at a dangerously low level and decides to dive in, something she wanted to do earlier but Day wouldn't allow. He wakes up just a second too late, and in shouting at her not to do so, she hesitates at the last moment, slips and smacks the back of her head on the platform she was jumping from, and then, unconscious, tumbles into the water below. The way all of these awful things keep on mounting up as Day's luck goes from bad to worse is superbly done. I was thinking the whole time, what the hell is going to happen next? The speed at which everything just keeps spinning completely out of control no matter what he tries to do fills you with a very specific kind of dread. And the worst is yet still to come. As he now has an unconscious Coy up on the inflatable raft and is tending to her wounds, Lucky begins barking at something in the darkness. He turns around to tell Lucky to be quiet, and it's then that he sees it. A crocodile is making its way slowly towards Lucky. The actor portraying Day plays this excellently, and the panic his character is feeling in this moment is palpable. The hungry crocodile slowly makes its way towards the barking dog, who is tied up and has no way of escaping. But then, in a strange twist of fate, the croc walks over a pile of metal pipes which have been stacked up by the pool's side. It slips on them, and the pile gives way. While this occurrence saves Lucky the dog, it makes Day and Coy's situation many times worse as the croc tumbles over the edge and plunges into the water just meters away from them. Day, with the unconscious Coy in his charge, manages to evade the crocodile overnight, but by morning all the water is drained from the pool, and they are now trapped with this ferocious reptilian beast. The rest of the film then takes place over a harrowing 6 days, which for Day is spent engaged in a constant and exhausting battle of wills with an angry crocodile. The Pool is an excellent film, one of the best I've seen for a while now. It's a single location film akin to movies like Phone Booth, Lock, and The Guilty. I myself am a big fan of these types of films as they pose very specific challenges for the filmmakers. How do you make a film that takes place entirely or almost entirely within one room or location engaging? There's no relying on flashy visual effects. They're entirely character and story driven and have to utilize their confined settings effectively in order to keep the audience entertained. The Pool had me by the throat from beginning to end. I was immediately on Day's side and wanted to see him pull through. I wanted him to save Coy, and I wanted to be witness to their eventual triumphant escape from the jaws of this crocodile that had been menacing them for almost an entire week. I very much admired Day's ingenuity when it came to tackling the problems he was up against, and the writing of these scenes and sequences always made sense. Each small success that Day achieved felt earned, and I was happy each time he managed to get a small win. I also really felt it in my gut when something went wrong for him or didn't go to plan. I would say that The Pool as an animal attack film is almost perfect. Almost. There were of course a few small problems that I will go over now. However, before I do, I will take this opportunity to give everyone watching a spoiler alert. I must say that if you haven't seen The Pool yet and you're interested in doing so, then please stop this video right now and go and watch it. I do highly recommend seeing this film for yourself as it is extremely good. It's available on Shudder, of which you can get a subscription for $4.99 a month. It's worth paying that just to see this film in my opinion. Now before the spoilers, I will give my rating. I will score The Pool a 9 out of 10. I highly recommend that you see this film if you haven't already done so. It is an expertly crafted, well written and well acted example of Asian cinema that I will be returning to at some point for a rewatch. Again, spoiler alert, do not continue on with this video if you haven't seen The Pool yet. Okay, you've been warned. I have to say that my biggest criticism of The Pool is the ending, and I mean the very ending, literally the last few seconds of the film. Day has by this point engaged in a final showdown with the crocodile, and he has managed to kill it, first by stabbing one of its eyes out with a broken off leg of the sofa left in the pool from the photo shoot, and then by heroically leaping from the turned over sofa and jamming a metal pole down its throat. I did find the leap from the sofa to look rather cheesy, by the way. It looked like he had suddenly gained gravity-defying powers, and it just looked a bit silly, but when weighed up against the rest of the film, I can forgive this. While he's been fighting the crocodile, Coy has made her way through the drain and into a pumping station with a locked grate above it. It's raining heavily, and the small compartment she is in is filling up rapidly. She then disappears under the water, and it's several minutes before Day manages to pry the grate open and pull her out. She has been completely submerged for at least 5 minutes and must surely have drowned by this point. He performs resuscitation on her and she remains unresponsive. It would seem that she, and Day's baby who she is carrying, are gone. This lingers for a while, quite a while really, long enough to make you think that she really has died. But then, after performing CPR on her, she miraculously regains consciousness. A little too miraculously, if you were to ask me. I was really, honestly thinking that this film was going to do the unthinkable, and that was to kill Day's love interest and his unborn baby. Not that I wanted this to happen. I wanted Day and Coy to escape with their lives. I wanted them both to come through, but I also wanted the Pool to do what no Western filmmaker would dare to do, and it seemed like it was going to. But then, it's almost as if the film got cold feet and chickened out at the last moment, and while I'm glad that Coy managed to survive their ordeal, I feel like my respect for this film would have been total and absolute if they had crossed over into this extremely dark territory. After all that Day had been through, he would have survived but lost everything: his girlfriend, his unborn baby, and, another spoiler, his dog, Lucky. Yes, Lucky sadly did not make it to the end of the film. Still tied up by the Pool during the ensuing fight, Lucky panics and leaps down into the pool and, in the process, hangs himself. This is extremely bleak, but by doing so, Day is able to use Lucky's body and the chain he is hanging from to climb out of the pool. It could be said, and depending on your personal proclivities, that perhaps Lucky sacrificed himself to save Day. I don't know if this is the case, if this is what the filmmakers were going for, but this is how I can't help but interpret it. Maybe I'm asking too much for this film to deprive Day of his girlfriend, unborn child, and his dog all in one go. That isn't what I wanted for him while watching, obviously, but I feel like it would have been extremely bold of those involved in the film's creation to have taken that route. But then again, this probably would have hurt the film's popularity, as the majority of the movie-going public demands a happy ending. Anyway, thank you very much for checking out my review review of 2018's The Pool. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed writing it. If you did, then please hit the like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, share the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Thanks for checking out Jaws World. Take care. Bye-bye.